There's a moment in life no one ever warns you about. It doesn't arrive with fireworks, and there's no dramatic music swelling under it. It's quiet, almost silent, but it marks the end of something you didn't know you were losing. For most of us, it happens in the background, on a school night, during a routine afternoon, or in the middle of a conversation we barely remember. The moment our childhood quietly slips out the back door, and we don't even notice. Maybe you were playing outside, the sun setting a little earlier than it used to, and you suddenly realized you weren't having fun the way you did before. Or maybe you woke up one morning, looked around your room, and the posters, toys, and games that once made your world feel enormous suddenly felt small. There is no announcement, no final episode, no season finale, just a subtle shift in gravity, an invisible transition from then to now. But here's the strange truth. Childhood never really disappears. It hides in memories, in objects, in songs you forgot you loved, in the smell of a lunchbox, or the sound of a hallway, or the feel of a controller that once fit perfectly in your hands. We grow older, but the younger versions of us don't fade. They just get buried under responsibilities, expectations, and the constant push to grow up. We trade simplicity for structure, curiosity for deadlines, wonder for efficiency, and sometimes, without realizing it, we begin to lose pieces of ourselves, not because we wanted to, but because life kept asking more of us than we could hold. Yet despite all of that, the child you once were still waits inside you. Not jealous, not angry, just patient. They wait for the moments when life slows down, when you pause long enough to remember what it felt like to see the world without fear or exhaustion. They wait for the chance to remind you who you were before the world taught you who you had to be. And that's why you're here, because some part of you still feels that quiet pull, a voice from far back in your memory calling you home. In this film, we're going back to that place, not to escape adulthood, but to reconnect with the parts of ourselves that never should have been left behind. Because the truth is simple, we never stopped being the person we were. We just stopped listening to them. Let's begin. There was a time in your life when you didn't question who you were. You didn't overthink your choices. You didn't wonder whether you were enough or whether you were falling behind, or whether people secretly expected more from you than you could give. You just lived, not perfectly, not fearlessly, but freely. Back then, you were the kind of person who chased butterflies without caring who was watching, who got excited over small things, stickers, school fairs, a Saturday morning that somehow felt like a holiday. Who believed in your dreams even when adults laughed or shrugged or said, "You'll understand when you're older." You thought you'd always be that person, the version of you who loved without hesitation, who trusted easily, who assumed the future would be kind simply because it hadn't hurt you yet. But growing up introduces a new kind of gravity, a quiet pressure to fit into a world you never asked to be compared in, a silent expectation to perform, to succeed, to stay ahead, a heaviness that slowly convinces you that your joy needs to be justified, your dreams need to be realistic, your personality needs to be appropriate. And piece by piece, you start changing, not because you want to, but because you feel like you have to. You learn to act older, even when it means being less yourself. You learn to hold your tongue, to hide your excitement, to appear calm when your heart is loud. You learn to want what other people want for you, even when it doesn't quite fit. And the strangest part, no one ever tells you when this transformation begins. You just wake up one day and realize you've become someone who worries more than they dream. Someone who apologizes for things they didn't even do wrong. Someone who feels guilty for resting and overwhelmed for existing. But here's the thing we forget. That original version of you, the one who dreamed without fear, didn't disappear. They didn't get erased. They didn't get replaced. They didn't grow out of it. They just learned to survive in a world that didn't always make room for them. And even now, they're still inside you, quiet, patient, hoping you'll remember who you promised to become. Because deep down, you didn't want to lose that person. You just didn't know how to keep them. But the story isn't over, not even close. Growing up doesn't happen with a single event. It's not a birthday or a milestone or a dramatic moment that rewrites your entire identity. It's quieter than that, slower, more invisible. It happens in the small moments. The first time you're told to stop acting childish. The first time you feel embarrassed for liking something you used to love. The first time someone laughs at your excitement and you pretend you don't care, even though the shame clings to you. Little by little, you start shrinking, not physically, but emotionally, internally. You stop raising your hand in class because you don't want to be wrong. You stop sharing your ideas because they might sound dumb. You stop dreaming out loud because someone might remind you that life doesn't work that way. And each time you silence yourself, a tiny piece of who you were gets swallowed by who you think you're supposed to be. The shift is so subtle you barely notice it. You start choosing the safe clothes, the normal hobbies, the acceptable dreams. You start rehearsing your personality, editing your thoughts, dulling your edges so the world won't find reasons to criticize them. And slowly, the world loses color. Not because life becomes worse, but because you stop experiencing it through the eyes of someone who believed it could be better. You grow cautious, you grow careful, you grow tired, and you mistake all of that for maturity. But maturity isn't the loss of joy. It isn't the death of imagination. It isn't the burial of your younger self. True maturity is knowing how to hold on to those things, even when the world tells you to let go. So if you've ever wondered why certain memories feel brighter, why certain songs hit you harder, why certain ordinary moments feel like portals to a life you forgot you lived, it's because those parts of you are not gone. They're calling out, gently, softly, asking to be remembered. That quiet shift, the one no one talks about, wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a separation you were never supposed to accept. And this film is the journey back across that distance. There are places in your life that hold memories more tightly than you do. Not because they're special now, but because they were once the entire world to you. A bedroom where your imagination built stories so vivid they felt real. A hallway where you walked slowly just to listen to your own footsteps. A front yard, a school stairway, a tree you used to climb, a store aisle you always gravitated toward. Places that remember you even after you've forgotten them. You could visit one today, physically or in your mind, and feel something shift. A gentle tug in your chest, the kind of feeling that says you were happy here, even if you can't explain why. Spaces don't stay the same. Paint fades, layouts change, walls get repurposed, but the emotional imprint, the version of you that once stood there, lingers like a ghost only you can see. You might walk through an old school and feel 10 different versions of yourself moving through the hallways. You might sit on your childhood bed and feel the weight of 1,000 nights where you fell asleep to the glow of a screen that felt like magic. You might visit an empty field and remember the kid who once ran through it like they had somewhere important to be. These places hold your history more safely than your memory does, because memory forgets, but environments, they echo. The truth is, we don't stop loving the places we grew up in. We just grow too busy, too distant, or too hardened to revisit them. But if you closed your eyes right now, you could walk back into any of them. The smell, the sounds, the feeling, it all returns faster than you expect. Not because you miss the place, but because you miss who you were in it. The world felt bigger back then. You felt bigger back then, not in size, but in potential, in imagination, in hope. And somewhere inside you, that person still exists, attached not to a location, but to a feeling those places helped create. You don't need to go back physically to reconnect with them. You just need to remember, because the places that shaped you are still there, not on the map, but in the parts of you that refuse to forget. Everyone carries things from childhood, and most of them can't be seen. Sure, there are the obvious objects. A stuffed animal missing an eye, a hoodie you should have thrown out years ago, a sketchbook filled with drawings only you understand, a game console that technically doesn't work anymore, but you'd never give away. But the real things you carry, they're deeper. You carry the fear of making mistakes because once someone sighed or frowned or said, "Try harder," and it stuck. You carry the habit of apologizing too often because you learned early that being easy made you accepted. You carry perfectionism like armor, not because you want to be perfect, but because you're terrified of disappointing someone. You carry silence, learned from moments when speaking up only caused trouble. Some people carry loneliness that started before they even understood what loneliness was. Some carry anger they never learned how to process. Some carry dreams they were talked out of before they had the chance to explore them. And yet, you also carry resilience, the strength to keep going, even when you didn't know how, the creativity that helped you escape when the world felt too heavy, the softness that somehow survived despite everything, the small spark of hope that refuses to die, no matter what life throws at you. These invisible things shape us more than we admit. They affect the way you walk into a room, the way you talk to yourself, the way you let people treat you, the way you choose your future without realizing the past is still whispering instructions behind the scenes. You are not broken for carrying these things. You're human. And part of growing up isn't putting the baggage down. It's learning which pieces still belong to you and which ones never should have been handed to you in the first place. Because not everything you carry was meant for you. Some of it was transferred by the people who raised you, some by the environment you lived in, some by moments too small to notice but heavy enough to linger. But here's the quiet truth most people never hear. You are allowed to set things down. You're allowed to question what you've been carrying. You are allowed to choose what stays with you moving forward. Your younger self carried everything because they didn't have a choice. You do. Inside you, there are versions of yourself that time never managed to erase. The little kid who laughed easily, the preteen who dreamed boldly, the teenager who felt emotions bigger than their body could hold, They didn't disappear. They just learned to live quietly. Sometimes they show up unexpectedly. In the way you get excited about something small, in the way certain songs hit you harder than others, in the way your heart pulls toward things that remind you of who you used to be. These moments aren't random. They're signals, flashes of the person who once existed without layers of fear or responsibility. As we grow, we assume these versions of ourselves are supposed to fade, but they don't. They linger because they're essential. Every version of you contributed something. One taught you curiosity. One taught you resilience. One taught you imagination. One taught you how to feel deeply, even when it hurt. And while adulthood tries to convince you that these parts are childish or unhelpful, they're actually the reason you're still standing. You don't survive life because you become hardened. You survive because there is still softness inside you that refuses to give up. The younger, you didn't know everything, but they knew how to hope. They knew how to believe in possibilities you've forgotten. They knew how to love things without shame or caution. Those are not weaknesses. They are tools you were never meant to abandon. If you listen closely, you can still hear them. Not with words, but with impulses, with instincts, with that gut-deep longing for something you can't quite name. That longing is the younger you trying to reach through the noise of adulthood, not to take control, but to remind you that you are not just who you became. You are everything you've ever been, layered together in one life. The versions of you that survived did so for a reason. They stayed because they knew one day you would need them again. No one prepares you for how heavy adulthood feels. You're taught math, science, history, but no one teaches you how to carry the weight of expectations, the pressure to always be okay, or the silent dread of feeling like you're falling behind everyone else. You grow up believing adults have everything figured out. Then you become one and realize everyone is winging it. Sometimes you wake up tired before the day even begins. Sometimes you feel guilty resting because you think you should be doing more. Sometimes you look around and wonder when life became a checklist instead of an adventure. Some adults become versions of themselves they don't recognize, more cautious, more stressed, more numb, not because they stopped caring, but because caring started to feel exhausting. You start prioritizing survival over joy, productivity over peace, functioning over feeling. You stop asking big questions because you don't have the time or energy to answer them. You stop dreaming because dreams feel impractical. You stop believing in yourself because life has worn down the parts of you that were once unshakable. But here's the truth most people miss. Adulthood doesn't erase your younger self. It just buries them under responsibilities. And when you feel lost, tired, or disconnected, it's often because the gap between who you are and who you were has grown too wide. You're not broken for feeling this way. You're not failing. You're not falling behind. You're simply carrying too much alone. The adult you became is doing their best with limited energy, limited time, limited support, and the fact that you're still trying, still learning, still searching for meaning. That makes you stronger than you think. Your younger self wouldn't be disappointed in you. They'd be amazed you survived things they couldn't imagine. You didn't lose your potential. You just got tired. And tired isn't the end. It's the first sign you deserve gentleness from yourself, most of all. Healing doesn't always look like breakthroughs or revelations. Sometimes it looks like rediscovering small joys you forgot you loved, watching an old movie, picking up a childhood hobby, walking a familiar path, letting yourself laugh too loudly at something silly, allowing yourself to daydream again, without guilt, without rules, without practicality smothering every spark of imagination. These small acts are not childish, they're restorative, because healing isn't about becoming the child you were, it's about reclaiming the parts of them you needed all along, their curiosity, their creativity, their courage to feel deeply, their openness to wonder, their belief that tomorrow could be better than today. Adulthood convinces you to shrink your world. Healing asks you to expand it again, and the path back to yourself is not linear. Some days you'll feel connected. Other days, you'll feel distant, disconnected from everything that once mattered. That's okay. The important thing is that you remember you're allowed to return. You're allowed to revisit things that once brought you comfort. You're allowed to outgrow certain versions of yourself while still honoring others. You don't heal by forgetting the past. You heal by integrating it, by recognizing that every version of you had a purpose and none of them deserved to be abandoned. So revisit that game, that music, that show, that place, that dream, not to escape your life, but to enrich it. Because as much as people tell you to move on, sometimes moving forward requires looking back. Your younger self is not a phase. They're a foundation. And the moment you stop treating them like a memory and start treating them like a companion, everything changes.